All right, today we are talking about focused TLC analysis. Not always a student favorite, but very important for two reasons. The reason we start doing focused TLC analysis in 10th grade and continue it through the upper grade levels is it helps students get more specific about an author's language, so analyze rather than summarize. And it also really pushes you to think about fully addressing the topic sentence, both the stem of the topic sentence, that main answer, and the branch. So the basic steps of focused TLC is after every quote, you pull out a word, phrase, or concept from your quotation that you focus on. You actually often re-quote from your quote or kind of put that phrase in your own words, but refer back to it. So basically, you're focusing your reader's attention, and then you finish up that sentence by giving a theory, and usually that theory relates back to your branch. The small point that you are developing in that paragraph, the point specific to the paragraph. The most important part, and the part people often skimp on, is laying out your logic. You want to really slow down and imagine that I am looking at your paper, wrinkling my forehead, and thinking, I don't think that theory makes sense. I don't agree. You want to sell me on the logical thoughts you had that show me your theory that you just stated makes sense. You can also pretend you're talking to a small child and you're trying to explain very basic things about the world to them that helped you justify your theory. Now, the very last thing you do is you make sure that you connect in the end. And this is usually where you're going back to your stem, which is maybe the larger point that you made in your topic sentence. In the case of the Odyssey essay, it's the bigger effect the language achieves. And you want to take all of your logic you have done in your theory and your laying out of your logic, and you want to swing it back and talk about, well, how does all of this affect the bigger picture or the stem of your topic sentence? So when I start this, I usually start looking at a quote, and I look back at my topic sentence, and I start by looking for my stem, looking for words used to describe Penelope. And the first thing I usually do is look into my quote, great goddess, don't be angry with me. This is Odysseus talking. And then he says, look at my wise Penelope. So if I am trying to support this branch, words to describe Penelope, I'm going to pick out the word wise as my focus. So it's really important, before we go any further, that your focus and your theory line up with that branch. Here's an example of a mismatch. And if you have a mismatch, you basically may as well not write the focus TLC because you're off topic and you're not supporting your point. So, for example, there's the stem of Odysseus leaving is causing conflict, and we're looking at word choice around Penelope. And I have Circe saying Odysseus pines all of his days for Penelope. So here I choose to focus on the word pining. I don't quite quote from my quote, but I restate that word. And then I give a theory. It shows Odysseus misses Penelope. That seems like it lines up, but pining isn't really word choice around Penelope. It's more talking about Odysseus and his missing of his wife and being the king. And so in this case, if I develop this focus and theory and I lay out my logic and connect, it won't really matter because I'm off topic. So here is an example of doing it a little bit better and making sure you're aligned to your stem and branch. So again, the steps: focus on a word, give a theory that can usually be one sentence together, then take a few sentences, to lay out your logic, and then finally connect back to your bigger point. So here is going to be an example of me doing it. I focus on a word or phrase, my wise Penelope. I focus on the word wise because that relates back to my branch, words describing Penelope. And here's how I state it. Describing Penelope as wise. I literally quote from my quote. Now I'm looking to draw a theory, which expands on my branch, how those words describe Penelope. And so I thought that describing Penelope as wise implies that she's more intelligent and smart than she is good looking. Now, that might be confusing to you. And so that's why it's really important to lay out your logic. You might be hearing me draw that conclusion about her wisdom, meaning she's not good looking, and you might be confused. So let me explain it to you in my lay it out step. Because describing her as wise implies she's more smart than good looking. I'm going to pretend I'm talking to a little kid, and I'm going to tell them, in this chapter, Circe, another woman, has been continuously referred to as lustrous, which is a word for beautiful. When Odysseus tells this beautiful woman he's leaving her for his wife, it's kind of notable he doesn't mention his wife with any physical compliment to characterize her, but rather he characterizes her as wise, her wisdom, which isn't a physical display. So failing to call Penelope beautiful after Circe is described as beautiful can be read as a little hint maybe Penelope isn't beautiful. If you're in a conversation where beauty is being discussed and someone turns to you and says, "You're smart," you would assume they're hinting you're not so good looking because they are changing the subject from beauty. And so notice how I kind of justify why I thought those words show that she's more smart than she is good looking, in case you were skeptical. The final step is to connect back. So I've got to kind of connect back to my stem, which I haven't talked about yet. How does this develop a conflict with Odysseus leaving Circe's island? And so here I try to connect back. I've described that maybe Penelope is more wise than good looking, and here I connect back. Failing to compliment Penelope physically hints she's not beautiful or attractive like Circe. And this hint adds to tension around Odysseus leaving Circe. So that's my pretty direct connection. He's made it clear Circe's attractive to him, and now he is leaving her for a woman he finds less physically attractive. And so in the end, I make sure I swing all the way back to my stem. That is how you do focus TLC analysis.